Hello and welcome to the Oyster Encyclopedia, where we explore everything you need to know about oysters. In this video, we will focus on Pacific oysters, one of the most widely cultivated and consumed oyster species in the world. Pacific oysters have irregular shaped shells that are whitish-gray in color and white with purple streaks inside. They have strong muscles that help them close their shells tightly when they sense danger or dryness. They can grow up to 10 inches in length, but the average market size is about 2.5 to 3.5 inches. The taste of Pacific oysters can vary depending on the local habitat or terroir where they are grown. Terroir refers to the environmental factors that influence the flavor and texture of oysters, such as water temperature, salinity, algae, and minerals. Generally speaking, Pacific oysters have a briny and metallic taste that is more intense than other oyster species. They also have a firm and plump texture that is slightly chewy. Pacific oysters are protandrous hermaphrodites, which means they can change their gender at some point in their life cycle. Most Pacific oysters start out as males and then switch to females later on. However, some may switch back and forth several times during their lifetime. The gender change is triggered by environmental factors, such as water temperature and food availability. Each female oyster can produce between 50 and 200 million eggs during a spawning event, which usually occurs in the summer when the water temperature is above 20 degrees Celsius. Pacific oysters are native to Japan's Pacific coast, where they have been cultivated for centuries. They were first introduced to North America in the early 1900s to replace the native Olympia oyster, which was overharvested and nearly wiped out by disease. Since then, Pacific oysters have been introduced to many other regions around the world, such as Europe, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Chile. Today, Pacific oysters are the most widely cultivated and consumed oyster species in the world. Pacific oysters are not considered endangered or threatened by any major conservation organization. Pacific oyster farming is often hailed for its sustainable credentials. Unlike fish farming, oyster farming does not require any external inputs of feed, water, or energy. Oyster farming also provides many environmental benefits by filtering the water, removing excess nutrients, improving water quality, sequestering carbon dioxide, and providing habitat for other marine species. Some of the organizations that provide guidance and certification for sustainable oyster farming include the Aquaculture Stewardship Council, ASC, sets environmental and social standards for responsible aquaculture production. The Global Aquaculture Alliance, GAA, promotes best practices and innovation in aquaculture through its Best Aquaculture Practices (BAP) certification program. The Marine Stewardship Council, MSC, sets standards for sustainable fishing and seafood traceability. Here are some fun facts about Pacific oysters that you may not know. Pacific oysters can live up to 20 years in the wild. Pacific oysters can produce pearls, but those from pearl oysters are more valuable and common. Pacific oysters have no eyes or brain, but they have a nervous system that allows them to sense light, touch, temperature, and chemicals. Pacific oysters can change their gender multiple times during their lifetime. Pacific oysters can filter up to 50 gallons of water per day. Pacific oysters are rich in protein, omega-3 fatty acids, iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. Pacific oysters are considered an aphrodisiac by some cultures because they resemble female genitalia.